Today, the auto component sector in India has emerged as a shining example of resilience and growth. In the last fiscal, that is FY23, the industry clocked a turnover of $70 billion with 33% growth, while our sales to the OEMs grew a whopping 40% to $60 billion. Exports, despite headwinds in some of our key markets, displayed steady progress, growing to $20.1 billion, while the aftermarket, with $10.5 billion in sales, grew by 15%.
At the forefront of this transformative journey are Acma's 5 pillars: business development, government affair and strategic initiatives, skilling and mentoring, startup and strategic partnerships, and image building and media interface. Complementing these pillars are Acma's dynamic regional chapters, playing a pivotal role in driving the evolution forward. Business development.
With a firm commitment to expanding business horizons and establishing a global presence for our members, Acma organized several exhibitions and international delegations. The 16th Auto Expo 2023 Components Show broke past all records in terms of participation, with increased engagements with OEMs being a key highlight.
Adding to Acma's dynamic business development efforts were events like the 7th iAuto Connect 2023, the MSME Summit, the 2nd Acma Farm Equipment and Implements Localization Expo, EV exhibitions and engagements with startups. Tech shows with OEMs aligned with localization goals were also organized and included Chennai Metro Rail Corporation, Hyundai Motors, MG Motors, and Volvo Eicher Group, among others. Furthermore, Acma took part in several international exhibitions including Automechanica Frankfurt, Automechanica Vietnam, and Automechanica Istanbul, Automech Show in Brazil, Apex Show in Las Vegas, and the West Africa Automotive Show in Lagos, Nigeria. Government affairs and strategic initiatives.
Acma continued to deepen its ties with both central and state governments. Acma's inputs on new free trade agreements with the European Union and UK and on the revision of existing FTAs have been very well received by our government.
Acma's contributions on regulatory matters such as Bharat NCAP and mandating of AC cabin for commercial vehicles have resulted in favorable delivery for the industry. On the knowledge engagement front, Acma continued collaboration with global knowledge partners, resulting in published studies and reports including Acma EY Study, Global Automotive Aftermarket Research, Acma Grant Thornton Initiative, Auto Electronics Manufacturing, Conquering the Next Frontier, joint study by Acma SIAM with EY, Localization Assessment for the Indian Automotive Sector, Acma Grant Thornton Initiative, Supply Chain Reorganization in the Automotive Industry post-COVID-19. Skilling and mentoring. Acma tirelessly supported its members through various programs to boost industrial competitiveness. This resulted in the successful execution of 40 cluster initiatives and projects, driving significant improvements in over 120 companies. Moreover, 6 novel sustainability programs in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for manufacturing were introduced. The standout event of the year was the Acma Atmanirbhar Excellence Awards and Technology Summit 2023. Focused on sustainability, this prestigious event celebrated excellence across categories such as manufacturing, exports, product innovation, HR, and environmental safety, effectively resonating within the industry. Startups and strategic partnerships. Acma consistently focuses on building strategic industry partnerships. Notably, ATPSE 2023, centered on import substitution and tech partnerships, attracted 22 plus international firms and facilitated 300 plus meetings between domestic and global companies. The auto parts matchmaking event in Japan and Taiwan stood out, benefiting Acma members and industry advancement. Acma's new outreach involved connecting 14 member companies with 44 startups. Embracing mobility transformation, Acma led overseas trips, including a CEO's mission to Israel and participation in Tel Aviv's EcoMotion 2023 Global Startup Event. Image building and media interface. Throughout the year, Acma remained prominently featured in diverse media channels, gaining coverage through numerous interviews and insightful articles in major newspapers, electronic media, and trade publications. Additionally, Acma's social media platforms became most sought after for industry insights and the latest updates on the auto component sector. Acma's future-ready initiatives, driven by unwavering commitment, delivered impressive outcomes. The Acma Center of Excellence in Sonipat executed 70+ programs across diverse domains. Renowned experts shared insights on topics like new product development, advanced manufacturing technologies, electric mobility, telematics, and Industry 4.0. A standout from Young Business Leaders Forum activities was the tour of Ola's Factory of the Future. Additionally, a YBLF delegation visited Hero MotoCorp's Global Parts Center and Garden Factory, providing valuable insights into industry transformation.
Embark on a transformative journey with Acma, where sustainability and innovation seamlessly converge, paving the way for a new and pioneering course ahead. We prepare and lead our members for the unfolding future, a symphony where growth harmonizes with consciousness. Let's embrace sustainability for competitiveness.
India today is on the brink of a transformative change. A kind of change that is rarely encountered. But those who recognize its potential are quick to embrace. Amid evolving global dynamics, India has emerged as a pivotal player in the unfolding of New World Order, leading the charge in catalyzing significant transformations. At the vanguard of this profound shift, India shines as a beacon of hope, proactively shaping its trajectory towards a comprehensive global redefinition. Leading this transformative narrative is the Indian auto component industry, a beacon of innovation and progress. Steered by the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India, Acma.
Today, the auto component sector in India has emerged as a shining example of resilience and growth. In the last fiscal, that is FY23, the industry clocked a turnover of $70 billion with 33% growth, while our sales to the OEMs grew a whopping 40% to $60 billion. Exports, despite headwinds in some of our key markets, displayed steady progress, growing to $20.1 billion, while the aftermarket with $10.5 billion in sales grew by 15%.
At the forefront of this transformative journey are Acma's 5 pillars. Business development, government affair and strategic initiatives, skilling and mentoring, startup and strategic partnerships, and image building and media interface. Complementing these pillars are Acma's dynamic regional chapters, playing a pivotal role in driving the evolution forward. Business development.
With a firm commitment to expanding business horizons and establishing a global presence for our members, Acma organized several exhibitions and international delegations. The 16th Auto Expo 2023 Components Show broke past all records in terms of participation, with increased engagements with OEMs being a key highlight.
Adding to Acma's dynamic business development efforts were events like the 7th iAuto Connect 2023, the MSME Summit, the 2nd Acma Farm Equipment and Implements Localization Expo, EV exhibitions and engagements with startups. Tech shows with OEMs aligned with localization goals were also organized and included Chennai Metro Rail Corporation, Hyundai Motors, MG Motors, and Volvo Eicher Group, among others. Furthermore, Acma took part in several international exhibitions including Automechanica Frankfurt, Automechanica Vietnam, and Automechanica Istanbul, Automech Show in Brazil, Apex Show in Las Vegas, and the West Africa Automotive Show in Lagos, Nigeria. Government affairs and strategic initiatives.
Acma continued to deepen its ties with both central and state governments. Acma's inputs on new free trade agreements with the European Union and UK and on the revision of existing FTAs have been very well received by our government.
Acma's contributions on regulatory matters such as Bharat NCAP and mandating of AC cabin for commercial vehicles have resulted in favorable delivery for the industry. On the knowledge engagement front, Acma continued collaboration with global knowledge partners, resulting in published studies and reports including Acma EY Study, Global Automotive Aftermarket Research, Acma Grant Thornton Initiative, Auto Electronics Manufacturing, Conquering the Next Frontier. Joint study by Acma SIAM with EY, Localization Assessment for the Indian Automotive Sector, Acma Grant Thornton Initiative, Supply Chain Reorganization in the Automotive Industry post-COVID-19. Skilling and mentoring. Acma tirelessly supported its members through various programs to boost industrial competitiveness. This resulted in the successful execution of 40 cluster initiatives and projects. driving significant improvements in over 120 companies. Moreover, 6 novel sustainability programs in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for manufacturing were introduced. The standout event of the year was the Acma Atmanirbhar Excellence Awards and Technology Summit 2023. Focused on sustainability, this prestigious event celebrated excellence across categories such as manufacturing, exports, product innovation, HR, and environmental safety, effectively resonating within the industry. Startups and strategic partnerships. Acma consistently focuses on building strategic industry partnerships. Notably, ATPSE 2023, centered on import substitution and tech partnerships, attracted 22 plus international firms and facilitated 300 plus meetings between domestic and global companies. The Auto Parts matchmaking event in Japan and Taiwan stood out, benefiting Acma members and industry advancement. Acma's new outreach involved connecting 14 member companies with 44 startups. Embracing mobility transformation, Acma led overseas trips, including a CEO's mission to Israel and participation in Tel Aviv's EcoMotion 2023 Global Startup event. Image building and media interface. Throughout the year, Acma remained prominently featured in diverse media channels, gaining coverage through numerous interviews and insightful articles in major newspapers, electronic media, and trade publications. Additionally, Acma's social media platforms became most sought after for industry insights and the latest updates on the auto component sector. Acma's future-ready initiatives, driven by unwavering commitment, delivered impressive outcomes. The Acma Center of Excellence in Sonipat executed 70 plus programs across diverse domains. Renowned experts shared insights on topics like new product development, advanced manufacturing technologies, electric mobility, telematics, and Industry 4.0. A standout from Young Business Leaders Forum activities was the tour of Ola's Factory of the Future. Additionally, a YBLF delegation visited Hero MotoCorp's Global Parts Center and Garden Factory, providing valuable insights into industry transformation.
Embark on a transformative journey with Acma, where sustainability and innovation seamlessly converge, paving the way for a new and pioneering course ahead. For competitiveness.
India today is on the brink of a transformative change. A kind of change that is rarely encountered. But those who recognize its potential are quick to embrace. Amid evolving global dynamics, India has emerged as a pivotal player in the unfolding of New World Order, leading the charge in catalyzing significant transformations. At the vanguard of this profound shift, India shines as a beacon of hope, proactively shaping its trajectory towards a comprehensive global redefinition. Leading this transformative narrative is the Indian auto component industry, a beacon of innovation and progress. Steered by the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India, Acma.
Today, the auto component sector in India has emerged as a shining example of resilience and growth. In the last fiscal, that is FY23, the industry clocked a turnover of $70 billion with 33% growth, while our sales to the OEMs grew a whopping 40% to $60 billion. Exports, despite headwinds in some of our key markets, displayed steady progress, growing to $20.1 billion, while the aftermarket with $10.5 billion in sales grew by 15%.
At the forefront of this transformative journey are Acma's 5 pillars. Business development, government affair and strategic initiatives, skilling and mentoring, startup and strategic partnerships, and image building and media interface. Complementing these pillars are Acma's dynamic regional chapters, playing a pivotal role in driving the evolution forward. Business development.
With a firm commitment to expanding business horizons and establishing a global presence for our members, Acma organized several exhibitions and international delegations. The 16th Auto Expo 2023 Components Show broke past all records in terms of participation, with increased engagements with OEMs being a key highlight.
Adding to Acma's dynamic business development efforts were events like the 7th iAuto Connect 2023, the MSME Summit, the 2nd Acma Farm Equipment and Implements Localization Expo, EV exhibitions and engagements with startups. Tech shows with OEMs aligned with localization goals were also organized and included Chennai Metro Rail Corporation, Hyundai Motors, MG.
So, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for braving the weather. I know sort of in at least Gurgaon, in the morning it rained so much that we had knee-deep waterlogging in my building, and I'm sure people tell me in Noida it was also very, very bad. I did not know about this part, but thank you and welcome to President Acma. And today we will be इसको हटाएंगे जरा presentation. Yeah. And today we will be presenting to you the performance review for fiscal 24. And the flow and the agenda today would be that I will walk you through the numbers and then we will invite President Acma for her expert comments. And then, of course, we will throw the house open for Q&A. So, no, so let me sort of first do the presentation. And so, how did we do last year? Our turnover stands at 6.14 lakh crores. That's 74.1 billion US dollars, and we thought at the outset we will share with you how did we do in last 10 years. I think in last 10 years we've grown reasonably well, between 2.5 to about 3 times. And if you look at where we stood in FY24, we were 2.34 lakh crores. Today we are 6.14 lakh crores. And the cumulative growth across all these years has been 10%. So that's, I would say, a reasonably good performance. Of course, I mean, we grow on the back of the vehicle sales and aftermarket and also export. So two things that distinguish us from the vehicle industry's performance is a strong aftermarket that we have and also a very strong export commitment from the industry. So walking you through the current year, as I said, FY24 we were $74.1 billion. We grew almost 10% over last year. Through FY24 we had reasonably good sales in the vehicle industry. You would all be following the SIAM numbers. So you know that the passenger vehicles did about 6%. The two-wheelers grew around 10%, the commercial vehicle around 3%, and the tractor industry we bit negative around 12%. So that's how there it is. Also, I will share with you our export number. We're very happy the way export have shaped
Recording
up.
in progress.
The exports have shaped up well, and also we had modicum of surplus, in trade surplus of 300 million. And yeah, of course, there is not just the sales of the vehicles that is helping us grow, but also higher value addition from the auto component industry. So it makes us proud. Also, very interestingly, the share of the EVs in the vehicle industry is growing, and that is also reflected in our supply to the EV OEM. We were 3% of our overall supplies and this time it's almost doubled to about 6%. So electric vehicle OEMs account for 6% of the overall turnover of the auto component industry. Profile of what we produce and who our customers are. So maybe I'll first do the customer bit. PV industry continues to account the maximum of our customers. So they account for 44% of what we produce. And then we have the commercial vehicle industry, which is about a quarter. And then the two-wheeler industry is about a fifth. And then the tractor industry and the rest taken together are about 10%. And what we produce, of course, engine components continues to be our trump card. Almost 26% of what we produce is engine components, and then suspension and braking, body chassis. So all this I'll leave with you, so there'll be a copy available to you. The export and import dynamics. Export we did well, and what I say is well, we grew just about 5%, 5.5% actually, from 20.1 and from 20.1 to 21.2. Why I say this performance is remarkable because the headwinds were very, very strong. As you all know, we're facing a lot of geopolitical challenges, Europe, Middle East, also on the logistics front, the Red Sea, and we have to now route our exports through Cape of Good Hope. That is creating a lot of challenges for us. But despite all these headwinds, we were able to grow 5.5%. Also, what is very notable is that this year, that is FY24, the overall merchandise exports from India were tad negative. There was a degrowth of about 3%. So in that milieu, while there is a degrowth of the overall merchandise exports from India, the auto component industry clocked 5.5% growth. And also what's very, very important is that, as I mentioned that, whenever there is a growth in the vehicle industry, the imports tend to grow. So what's interesting is that the imports haven't grown in the same proportion as they were growing in the past. If you look at the import chart from FY20, leave the pandemic year, FY21 to FY22, there was a 33% growth in import. and then from FY22 to FY23 the growth was 11%, but from FY23 to FY24 the growth has been just 3%. So the trade surplus is positive, and secondly, in second inference is that there is increased focus on localization by the entire industry, the OEM together. So this augurs well. A chart on the destinations to where we export. And also one important thing is that despite, the war that's happening in the European region, our exports grew 12% to Europe, 6.89 billion. And North America is the second most important market with 6.79 billion, and here again the exports grew 4.5%. And then, of course, the rest of the markets, we have Asia with 5.15 billion, but here it is exactly the same number as it was in the last year. Africa, of course, the market is very, very small, but there was a growth of 12%. And in Latin America, there was a small degrowth, but those markets are still very, very small and emerging, and they call them emerging markets. But in the matured markets, we did have reasonable growth in the circumstances of what they are witnessing today, whether it's economy or the geopolitical challenges. Imports, again, Asia sort of happens to be our single largest, geographic regions from we import, and reflecting the overall import, because here China is a very dominant player, and overall imports grew 3%, very similarly, largely because imports from Asia grew 3%. Of course, US is a very distant market here when it comes to import, so it was flat. And from Europe, the import growth has been 4%. I'm not going to read in details, but this is the profile of the products that we import. And again, largely this profile remains very similar. We haven't seen any major shake-up in the profile of the import or the export. So drive transmission and engine components are the two largest chunks of the export that we do. And this is a profile on the import front, export and import. And again, this profile also remains very similar as has been in the past years. Top 10 countries that we export and import, and of course USA followed by Germany. These are two most critical markets for us. And when you look at import, as was in the earlier charts, when we look at the regions, Asia, and therefore within Asia, China sort of is the region or the country from which we import the most. And what is very, very important and notable is that our import from China this year hasn't grown, it has remained flat. So FY24 over FY23. In fact, it is a tad negative. I'll give you that figure. So in FY23, our import from China stood at 6.14 billion, and in FY24 it is 6.08 billion. So it's flat to a very, very and I keep my fingers crossed, this trend would continue, reflecting more localization. But of course, Germany, South Korea, Japan, all these countries have very significant presence of vehicle manufacturers, their origin in India. So therefore, there is, import from these countries. Yeah. And Thailand, of course, is a big Japanese base. And some of the countries such as Singapore, it's largely because of more growing content in electronics, and also Singapore is a big trade hub. We also have a very vibrant aftermarket. So the aftermarket grew 10%. Of course, the vehicle park is growing, and therefore the aftermarket continues to grow. And not just that, there's an interesting dynamics happening here with the growth in e-commerce. We find two things happening. One, there is a degree of formalization that's setting up into the aftermarket, and also genuine aftermarket products are now reaching the hinterland, which earlier was a little difficult to get by. So that's an interesting trend in the aftermarket. This is a summary chart, so you will have it. The upper chart is in rupee terms and the lower chart is in US dollar terms. And looking at maybe the tailwinds and the headwinds, because while these are more challenging but easy to read for me. So there is ongoing geopolitical challenges in Europe and Middle East. Of course, because of that challenge, there is increasing freight costs, not just increasing of freight costs, but also time to deliver has gone up substantially, almost twice to thrice. And of course, rationalization of GST has been a long-standing ask of the auto component industry. We suffer two GST rates, 18% and 28%, and we've been requesting the government for many a year that this be rationalized to a flat rate of 18%, keeping our fingers crossed. And in terms of tailwinds, of course, the macroeconomic indicators continue to be robust. We're looking at good GDP growth, not just for the next year, but also for coming few years. All major global institutions have sort of said that or revised the rates the growth rates in favor of India. Domestic demand, I'm sure President will talk about it on the vehicles front. It did become a little muted in the first 6 months on the back of elections and maybe the inclement weather with the heat wave that we suffered, and also the elections. And hopefully now on with a bountiful of monsoons, we expect the growth to come back here. The export continue to be robust. We aren't seeing any major disruptions, at least till now, keeping our fingers crossed. And of course, as we all know, there's a huge focus of the government on carbon neutrality, sustainability, and so the industry is now aggressively looking at subjects of ESG and stuff like that. Most OEMs and the tier ones are walking the stock on the ESG front. And of course, we are finding many new entrants, people, especially from software, hardware, telematics, startups, of course, wanting to engage with the larger automotive ecosystem, and the Acma in particular. So this is typically all I had to tell you about the industry. But now, as I switch maybe the panes or the slide. Pains as in P-A-N-E, not P-A-I-N, okay? So, two happy tidings that are coming your way. The 64th Acma annual session on September 9. Acma will be on September 9. SIAM is on September 10. So please block your diary for this. And the team will be fostering self-reliance and global competitiveness in the mobility component industry space. And of course, you all know that the next Bharat Mobility Show is in the month of January. The dates of the motor show are from 17th until 22nd. That will be in Pragati Maidan, and the component show will be from 18th to the 21st of January in Dwarka, the Yashobhumi. And soon, Honorable CIM will have a presser with a curtain raiser. So you will have more dates and more details on that. But I just wanted you to block these 2 dates. And now a big announcement from Acma, and the credit for this goes to President Acma. I mentioned to you about the transforming landscape of the industry and more ecosystem, non-automotive ecosystem players, as I said, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, whether it is the telecom guys, whether it's the startups, various kinds of technology players wanting to be a part of the automotive ecosystem. And therefore, we thought it's worthwhile to create a new entity. It's an Acma entity, it's an Acma forum. It's called Acma Mobility Foundation. And this allows a whole lot of new set of players to engage with Acma, become members of Acma through this forum. And we would endeavor to drive innovation and collaboration, a lot of technology interface, and of course all for a good cause of growing the mobility ecosystem in the country in a sustainable manner. So and in fact in the entire umbrella theme of the Bharat Mobility, the Bharat Mobility Components show will be executed by the Acma Mobility Foundation. So we just thought it all goes in sync and reflecting the transformation in the industry. Acma ought to transform. And I would sort of thank President Acma for leading this initiative and making this a reality. And therefore, I now would like to stop, and I would request President Acma to sort of share her expert thoughts and opinion on the performance of the industry, and if she wishes to add anything on the Mobility Foundation that we have created. So, President, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinny. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming here today. There's a lot happening. The new governments come, the new budgets come. The good news is that our sector is still growing. So that's the good news. It may be not growing at a pace that we expected it to, but it's growing. And the other thing that's happening is that the value addition is also growing. So we are not, we are becoming more and more entrenched in the manufacturing ecosystem. There's a lot more thrust on design, on localization, on deep localization. So, a lot of that is happening. The budget has been generally good for us because there's been a thrust on skilling, on inclusivity, on also, on the startup community, because, the startups are an important part of our fraternity now because there's a lot of innovation that's coming through them. The MSMEs have got a big boost. They constitute 70% of the entire auto component ecosystem, and with the credit guarantee schemes, etc., been given to them, I think that's going to be good for us. And of course, there is a huge impetus on capital, on infrastructure, so which means that will have a cascading impact on us. As you know, the outlay on roads and road infrastructure has been growing, and that's had a positive impact on us, and it will continue to. Needless to say, as Vinny pointed out, that there have been a lot of tailwinds. They continue to be there. Logistics still being a big sore point because we are having issues around the Red Sea. We are having issues on the Singapore port. We are having issues, all across. So while there's no issue in terms of components, there is an issue now of moving them in and out, and that is causing a lot of heartburn because time to market is going up. Time to produce is going up, inventories are going up, so working capital gets blocked. So I think that's one area that is bothering us at the moment. On skilling, I have to say that there's a lot of work that's happening both with the Acma Center of Excellence and in the industry per se generally, because we have to not only reskill, we have to also upskill, and there's a huge shift happening. Our whole sector is transforming very, very rapidly, but everyone is transforming is keeping pace with the transformation. So, I think that's good for everyone. On the numbers, I think Vinny already spoke about them. All in all, 74 billion, good. Exports still is 300 million more than our imports, which is a good sign for us. And I think that this will only grow. The export impetus is huge not only by the government, now even by the OEs. So whether you export directly or you export into vehicles that are whether you supply into vehicles which are being exported, overall exports are growing. Quarter one has been a little low, but generally quarter one is low, but this time it's been softer. There have been a couple of reasons for that, as Vinny said. The weather did not support anyone at all, and then we had elections. And then we had unprecedented rain, so it all came together. So I think at the moment, people are not spending, but the way we look at industry is that if you look at it on a long-term trajectory, the bar only goes up. I mean, I haven't seen it actually go down. There are blips, but on an average, we do move up. We do believe that this will also, it'll pick up. We hear that there's softening happening globally, but as we know, we keep saying our car penetration is so low. It's 30 cars to 1,000, and so there's only one side, and that's the upside. So we're confident and happy about that. So on that, I'll conclude, and if I open the house to questions and comments. Thank you.
A methodology and then present it to the government. Like, I give a small example. Years ago, 2 decades ago, a small organization in Coimbatore called Codicia, I think I mentioned earlier also, that they managed to import raw materials in such a way that, it benefits everybody. Is there a way that Acma can propose a methodology?
So, Acma as a body, we're an interface between, the sector and the government. We do put in, the pain of the sector is definitely put forth to the government, and it's based on that many things are happening. So, for example, this current budget, the minerals, the custom duties have been, slashed on. That's going to boost EVs in a way. So, I think the government, to be fair, is doing what they have to. I mean, we're a large country, and there are many, many aspects that need to be looked at. And as a body, we are constantly putting forth, the pain and the joys of the sector. Yeah.
So just to add what President said, we represent the industry to the government, and if there is a concrete suggestion of the industry on something like that, I must say the government listens well to Acma, or at least the automotive sector, at least that's what I have seen. So if there is something concrete that comes from the industry, we'll be very happy to put forth to the government.
Yeah, and currently also we are working together with the government under their initiative on the Automotive Mission Plan 2047. The government's thinking that far out, and they've broken it into phases, and there's a lot of work that's going on jointly, cross-industry, so I think we'll have to be patient.
So over here, Money Control. So you have said about that $74.1 billion turnover in FY24. And it's been about 9.8% growth. So is the growth on the back of higher premiumization and electrification of vehicles, or is it because of the volumes? Because if I'm not wrong, small cars have nosedived, and sedans are not doing well. LCVs have also fallen, and M and HCVs are somewhat sailing through. So, if you can shed some light, the growth, is it like in terms of volumes, or is it in terms of value and all? If you can talk about that. And my second question is, you mentioned the 6% is from EVs. So if you can talk about that, do you expect to sustain the momentum? Because EV sales have gone down in the first quarter. Tata and all have seen a massive drop. And the industry is also not very upbeat about EV sales. So do you expect the share of EV components to go up further despite those turbulences, or you expect it to go down?
So I think that it's a combination of both. On the growth numbers, there is the average price of the car has gone up, but also numbers have gone up. So it's a combination of both. When you say the small cars not selling, I think the small car is selling, the growth is not that much. What is happening is actually that the SUV as a segment has taken off immensely. And the share of the SUV in the entire pie is going up, multifold. So that's a change in consumer preference. So what the OEs will OEs will, they adapt. They will adapt their product lineup to suit that. So I think, yes, there is softening. There's no doubt about it. But I think eventually it will pick up because the OEs are not really lowering their production numbers. We also build up for festive season. You need to remember that. Come September and festive season takes off, then it's non-stop. So H1 is generally low, if you look at historically. So you build up and then you go all out. That's how it goes. Yeah, you would like to add?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right there. So not just the cars, also in two-wheelers, the higher CC. So it's a combination of volumes and the higher sort of premium product. So and it's across, whether it is cars, whether it is two-wheelers, whether it is the commercial vehicles. Commercial vehicles also higher tonnage is selling more. Even in the MHCV categories, the tractor trailer is selling quite a bit. So that's an interesting shift. The tonnage is going up on the vehicle size. So that's an interesting thing. And of course, there is more value add coming in from the auto component industry. On the EV front, look, the FAME 2 ended, and then there was this new scheme that the government has come up with. We are hopeful that the FAME 3 will also come, and then it will bring back the momentum in the EV sales. But you must also note that the cars never had subsidy from the government. Okay, so car sales are largely a dynamics on the EV front, are a dynamics on the road, on the range anxiety and the charging infrastructure. We believe that once the charging infrastructure becomes more ubiquitous, you will have better uptick on the EV cars. And we are hopeful that the FAME 3 will be reinstated, or the FAME 3 will, the subsidy scheme will come, which would probably be FAME 3 or whatever name that the government wishes to give. And that will sort of give a shot in the arm to the two-wheeler sales and some of the other entry-level commercial vehicles that the government is envisaging. Yeah.
Okay. So what
you see, why we say this is because the government has a roadmap on, or at least they have a vision to be carbon neutral by 2070, and EVs and reduction in tailpipe is seen as one of the ways to reach to carbon neutrality.
Okay. And so you expect to replicate the trend this financial year also, the growth, the growth that you have witnessed in FY24, do you expect to replicate the trend, overall growth as well as the growth of share of EV components?
See, the associations are always optimistic. Okay, so we will always be optimistic. But as I said, there is no reason for us to be doubting Thomas's, because all the other macroeconomic indicators at this juncture look robust, and we are knocking on to August, and lo and behold, in 1 month's time you'll have September. I mean, even actually the Rakhi and all, the festive season begins, there'll Ganpati coming, so you will have the festive season, and that will again boost the morale of the industry.
So you also need to see that, OEs are doubling up on capacity. it's a 3-year plan, right? It doesn't happen a 3 to 5 year plan. And component follow suit. So we need to invest in advance. So everyone's investing. If you look at the component sector is investing. If you look at the OEs are investing and increasing capacities. So I think that should give you an indication of where what's going to be the runway. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, just want to understand, since you mentioned in your presentation about there is a negative or a decline in Chinese imports to India, and
I wouldn't declare it that way. It's a silver lining. Yeah.
So, but as an association and as an industry, do
Yes.
we have a roadmap to how to further decrease that import size, as well as because the growing thrust towards EVs we'll have to import more cells and batteries from there.
Yeah. So I must, and I'm sure President would sort of concur with what I'm going to say, and because this is coming from her presentation at the scale committee. We have a scale committee headed by Dr. Pavan Goenka, and under the aegis of the Honorable Commerce Minister. So, as an association, look, we believe that the auto industry value chains are truly global. Okay, they cannot be watertight compartments. It doesn't work that way. And we always believe that there will be imports. Okay, you cannot say that there will be no imports. But the point to sort of make note of is that exports should be higher than imports. That indicates that we are creating value, we are adding net value. Okay, so as long as there is a positive trade differential, we should not have much concern. Last 5 years, not the 10 years, last 5 years, the rate of growth, the CAGR of export is twice of that of import. So there is hope that, we are, why hope? I mean, the number says that we are on the right path because the CAGR of export is twice of that of import. So that is a good thing to happen. And the industry, as you know, and you will also know from the OEMs, we are adding value, the Indian auto components and vehicles, India made or Indian brands are really world class today. So that is another big thing. We probably couldn't say that 5 or 7 years ago. So that is something very, very reassuring. Yes, we will continue to make more efforts on localization. This will continue, and all this will be very proudly displayed at the Auto Expo. So
Yeah, so I'll just add a little bit to that. So industry and government are working together. If you've seen recently, there've been an announcement on QCOs. So basically, these are deterrents. It also pushes the industry to localize. Sometimes you need that push and that impetus, because when you have an option, you will exercise the option. But as the options start getting closed, you will localize. And industry is realized and aligned to the fact that this is the way it's going to be. So high levels of localization, and the bigger thing is design localization. So now the focus is moving not just on component, it's on design. So if you design in India, you will make in India, for sure. That's how it goes. This is something that we didn't realize, we didn't, in 10 years ago, we spoke about it, we didn't do it, but now everybody is doing it. The R&D spends are going up. That's a good sign. Global capability centers are coming into India, which means that, so the next big thing after this is going to be people, right? And skilling of people. If you've got to design in India and make in India, then you need the right skills. So a lot of global capability centers are being set up and people are being trained. A lot of global procurement houses are basing themselves now here, which means sourcing from India for the rest of the world. We led a delegation, we went for a delegation to Mexico. I mean, there's a lot of traction happening there. So we're going to Japan now. Basically, we're just all over, going all over. My passport's going to run out of pages. But yeah, so the reason for all this is that it's not just Acma as a body or the government of India. governments around the world want to engage. And I think that's a sign. So we need to be, as I keep saying, we need to be patient. It's happening in the right direction, and it will, yeah, it'll be steady. So I think it's going to be in the range of 7 to 10%, depending, yes. Right now, two-wheelers are doing very well. So
And this share of EV components in overall revenue, you see doubling again in FY25 or?
It's a wait and watch.
Okay.
See, the worldwide, the performance of EVs is very dependent on the subsidies
Right.
that they get, right? So we need to see what kind of incentives are provided by the government so that the momentum continues.
All right.
So I think you guys, everyone needs to look at the full pie.
Yeah.
There's a pie, the whole pie is growing. So there is EVs, there is alternate, everything is growing. So that's the good news. Now, in what proportion what grows? I mean, as an industry, we are adaptable. We will adapt to all technologies that come our way. Bajaj recently launched a CNG motorcycle. So we talk about EVs, that's great, but there are alternate fuels that are also now emerging and being more and more accepted. So, that's how it's
My
going.
next question was on the CNG
Yeah.
bike. So is it going to give like more opportunity for component manufacturers?
Yeah, so in the case of CNG, the larger component manufacturers do not get so impacted.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some component people who get impacted in case of EV, but not so much in the case of CNG.
Right.
And CNG per se, even in pass vehicles, growing. So, yeah. So, and of course, in buses, yes.
Thank you.
Hello. As per the latest reports, there is an all-time high unsold inventory of passenger vehicles and two-wheelers, and many new product launches are planned for the next few months. So how is that impacting the auto component industry while the old products are still sitting at the dealerships?
So yes, there is a pile-up of inventory. There's no doubt about it. But as I said earlier, H1 usually does see piling up of inventory. If you look at the dealer base, they will always have inventory in H1, and it starts to get liquidated in H2 because festive season picks up. And H2 is always much higher than H1 for the dealer. What the OE does is it continuously does sustain production because OEs have capacities that are planned. It can't suddenly double it in 1 month. So they produce, keeping in mind the average of the year. And that takes into account peaks and troughs. And then, yes, it's parked. So it's parked at the OE, it's parked at the dealer. We believe it will get liquidated. There are new launches coming, but that happens every year. I mean, new launches do come in every year. The small car, as you said earlier, please do understand that there is a huge population that is on two-wheelers right now. Eventually, they will move into cars, and their first option will be a small car. So I think that is something that needs to be taken into account. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is a question from the team who have joined online. Shelley is asking if you can elaborate on the impact of container shortage and logistic issues. What kind of implication it will have on cost?
So I can, from a user of containers, I can say it from that perspective, and then I'll ask Vinny to speak from the industry as well. Container shortage is actually happening because the time to rotate the containers going up. We are having multiple areas where there are bottlenecks. Bottlenecks on the Red Sea is one. But right now we are also facing bottlenecks, on the Southeast Asia, region. Singapore is Sri Lanka. China also but now a little decluttered. So as a result of that, you know, the whole cycle to rotate is gone up. Today, the freight companies are asking for something called a congestion charge. You know, so that's like up to $1,000, $1,500 a container, which basically means your cost of shipments going up tremendously, and then, you know, you have to hold more inventory. We're hoping it'll get decluttered and really soon, but no one has that answer. I think, yeah, Vinny, over to you.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely bang on, and that's typically what everybody is sort of telling us is that, as you said, you know, the trade route has become so much more elongated, and you avoid the Red Sea and you go down South Africa through the Cape of Good Hope if you were to access Europe. And Europe, as you see, is almost 33% of our market for exports. So there is a challenge out there, and of course because of the longer route, the travel days of the ships, and therefore the container has gone up, and therefore availability becomes a challenge, and therefore turnaround becomes a challenge. And sometimes, I mean, some ports have a challenge because, I mean, on the handling capacities and all, there are issues, and that is what has happened in Singapore and in Sri Lanka. So these are realities and beyond us, and we keep our fingers crossed. And in this case, unfortunately, the government also cannot do much because the shipping lines are international shipping lines, they're not Indian shipping lines. So we have to wait and keep our fingers crossed and hope things will normalize.
So the government will only say one thing if you go to them. They're saying that's why we're asking you to localize. Yeah, so outbound freight, yes, but for inbound, they're like localize and reduce dependence, yeah.
Hi. So I'm Mohit from Carbike 360, and my question is, like Lintel Gadkari has mentioned that BS7 emission norms will be introduced soon and will be as strict as Euro 7. So is Acma working towards manufacturing components that can reduce harmful vehicle emissions in preparation of new standards?
I missed the earlier part. You said introduction of BS7?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, it is a little early. So what happens is, you know, India follows the UNECE standards. So, you know, BS4 and BS6 was nothing but Euro 4 and Euro 6, okay? And now when the UNECE is working on Euro 7, we also have started to work on the Euro 7 or on the BS7, but it's just a very initial stage we started to work, and as you know, standards in India are introduced with a wee bit of a phase lag with what has been there in the Europe, okay? But we do not know the exact time when it will be introduced. As you know, the Euro 7 has been deferred by a year's time, okay? So we do not have a clarity as to when it gets introduced into India, but yes, we know it will be whenever the time is right. And we have started to work on it. So both Acma and SIAM work together on this under the umbrella of MORTH and the testing agencies.
Also, many OEMs are not happy with this, and so because it will increase the cost of the vehicle due to adding few more extra components. So like, can we maintain the cost and tackle that norms?
So again, that's why localization.
Okay. So there are more questions on the online chat. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, how much have the Mudra loans helped the SME part of the auto component industry? How do you think the allocation in the current union budget that was announced help?
Maybe we'll have to get back. I don't have, we don't track as to how many of the auto component manufacturers get the Mudra loans. But just as an information, we do regular interfaces and interactions with SIDBI, you know, because they give credit to small and medium enterprises and some at lower rate, and there are certain schemes that they have which are very attractive for the small and medium enterprises, and they do make use of it. So we have a committee for MSMEs. In fact, 70% of the Acma members are MSMEs, and we sort of facilitate that, and we can probably check and get back how many of the Acma membership have availed of a mudra. But all these schemes that are announced for MSMEs are indeed very helpful for the industry. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. There's a question. Yeah.
Sir, ma'am, I wanted to understand, you mentioned that in Southeast Asia, in Singapore port and in Sri Lanka port, there is some issue. Can you explain a bit what exactly is that? And my second question was, you said the Vinny sir said that the turnaround time has increased by 2 to 3 times. Can you give an exact time that for a container to go from here to Europe, how much has the time increased?
So, I mean, I don't have the exact number of days. I mean, but Singapore is congested right now because what has happened is when one part of the world, like the Red Sea, has a crisis, then freight starts moving alternate routes. When alternate routes start, then the most efficient ports get congested first. Singapore is an efficient port. It's highly congested right now, and therefore their clearance time has gone up by 7 days. 7 to 14 days. So which means that you can say, so that therefore average time coming from components coming from that side has gone up by say 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a lot.
You have to travel, the Red Sea was a shorter route, but now you have to go down Africa from a western coast of India. You have to travel all the way down to South Africa and Cape of Good Hope, and then go towards North Africa, and then get into the Europe. So that adds substantially to the time, and therefore that leads to more cost, of course. I mean, there is more inventory carrying for the industry because you have to plan accordingly, and that working capital gets, and capital in this country is not cheap any which ways. So these are cascading impacts that you suffer. Yeah.
Sir, can you give an example that average time, how much has it increased for?
I could give you a number. I'll talk to a few people. I don't have an exact number, but and I will give you a number for sure. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
At least it should be anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks is what I hear in the industry is the average time that's gone up. Yeah.
Okay, there is one more question. Margins for auto component suppliers are shrinking. This is Bhushan has asked. Margins for auto component suppliers are shrinking. How you look at it against the sales of vehicles moderating? Would it mean that the order quantities will be affected, distributing the bottom line, or disturbing the bottom lines of supplier downstream?
So, contrary to that comment, actually margins are not shrinking. Margins are quite stable. If you look at, data of all listed auto component suppliers, you will know. The reason for that is as localization actually goes up, you're supposed to do better. And if you invest in technology and design, you will do better. So I think, right, and because the auto component sector is stable, there's a lot of reinvestment happening in capacities and in technologies. I mean, that's what I believe.
Yeah, no, the President is absolutely right. I mean, the point is that those companies that are investing in technologies, those companies that are export-oriented, because margins in the export market is a wee bit better than the domestic market. Those companies that are walking the technology, path and are into exports will continue to do better. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, he has a question.
With vehicles, especially passenger vehicles, getting highly connected and all, and there is like also ADAS equipped cars and all, and there's also talking about globally there are companies talking about AI driven cars and all, and Elon Musk, Tesla, the cars are known for that AI driven high tech and all. With those kind of vehicles gaining traction, do you see that as an opportunity in the domestic ecosystem, or there will be higher components and all, because those are very tech driven products, high on electronics and all. If you can shed some light on that.
So I think as an industry body, we recognize all that, and that's why you saw we've launched a new forum, okay, to see how we can sort of up the industry's play in the technology area. And when we identified 103 technologies in the PLI, some of these technologies that you mentioned are covered there. Okay, so as the market evolves, as the consumer preferences for more sophisticated vehicles goes up, okay, you would find the industry investing in these areas. Okay, a lot of research work already happens here. A lot of GCCs are doing these kind of work. A lot of the leading component manufacturers, the international ones, are working in this area on the research front in India. Okay, so as volumes grow in the domestic market, you would find more and more component manufacturers investing for manufacturing in this area. So it's just a matter of time, it's a matter of evolution, and it will happen. Yeah. Yeah. So any last comment that you wish to make?
No, I mean, I think that we've covered it all. We are hopeful and optimistic, and we will continue to invest, and we will continue to skill. So I think Acma is running some great programs on skilling. We're running great programs on, we have a startup pillar now. So, and of course, as Vinny had mentioned, we've started the Acma Mobility Foundation. We're excited about it. Through this new vehicle, we are going to be able to actually tap a much larger market, because today the lines are getting blurred between, who's a typical auto component maker and who's not, and we're getting a lot more from the non-auto space. And also we would be able to reach the non-member fraternity. So that's going to be exciting. Thank you all for coming in today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we invite you for a humble lunch. Yeah? Yeah. And thank you to all our friends who've joined online. My apologies, I did not welcome you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Missed him in his purple shirt. Hi, Vinny sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, the ethanol, any alternate, who's not been a typical auto component.